Hi everyone, my name is Deanna and welcome to my channel about stories that happen in life. Sit back, pour yourself a hot drink. I think this is going to be very interesting. Well, before we start, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a lot of new and useful videos. At school, Vlada was the first girl in her class. The boys ran after her in hordes, there was no shortage of them. But the girl was not in a hurry to choose. She chose for herself the one who could provide her with a secure old age. But alas, there was no such man. Vlada, what are you waiting for? Asked her friend Anka. Yes, all the wrong ones are caught, said the girl sadly. Soon we'll graduate from the institute. Look, all the classmates are already married and have children. She pointed at some girls with strollers. And what? To marry the first man you meet now. She didn't understand. Well, why for the first, for the second, joked friend. I don't want to. That's not what my mom gave birth to me for. Vlada got sad again. It's all clear with you, you'll be a girl, her friend waved her hand. They walked into the park. Everywhere, wherever there was a girl, she looked for rich suitors, but they lived somewhere else. Again bad luck, sighed Vlada. She got up from the bench and headed for the exit from the park. Where are you going? Anya didn't understand. We just got here. Let's get out of here, Vlada said quietly. The girls walked back to the dorm, where they lived together in one room. Girlfriend, maybe you should change your attitude a little. Look at yourself, who would fall for a poor student in a short skirt and sandals. Anna said, Leave me alone, I'm sick of it without you. Vlada even swung jokingly at her friend. All right, I'll shut up, she said laughing. What are we going to do tonight? Asked Vlada. I don't know, suggested. Anja looked at her. Maybe to a club, suggested Vlada. You think rich boys go there, her friend laughed. Who knows? Vlada had a clear goal. She wanted to marry a rich man, and that was it. In the evening they did go to the club, but they didn't find anything there. Anya danced and flirted with the guys, and Vlada just sat at a table. She was angry at herself, at the place where she had to be born. Why was everything wrong? And where did she get such a hold of herself? It was incomprehensible. The institute was finished with a diploma in hand. The girl did not know what to do. She and Anya decided to rent an apartment in the same place where they studied. Let's settle somewhere here, and then we'll go to a bigger city. We have to earn experience, or they won't hire us anywhere later, Anya said wisely. Okay, I agree with you, her friend nodded. They got a job at the factory in the accounting department. The salary was small, but they had enough to live on. After a year, the girls decided to move to the big city. There, of course, no one was waiting for them. The money was enough to pay the rent for 3 months in advance. If we don't get a job anywhere, we'll have to go back, Anya said. I understand why you're talking about it. Vlada looked at her friend. The girls managed to get a job in a small firm. They worked hard, but they still didn't have enough money. At some point, Vlada decided to register on a dating site. Immediately began to come responses. But the girl was not naive. She knew what men need from her. Vlada decided to check with young men on the availability of their finances. She agreed to a date and came first to the appointed place, which she chose herself. There looked from ambush at the guy. If she did not like how he dressed, then did not go out at all. If the outfit was all right, Vlada came out of the secluded place. They got acquainted, and the girl offered to go to a nearby cafe to drink coffee and talk. If the young man agreed, it was a plus in his direction. If not, he went straight to the woods. In a cafe where 1 cup of coffee cost about 300 rubles, and at those prices, it was a lot, the girl offered to order 2. She knew in advance how much coffee cost here, so she led potential suitors here. Out of 10 agreed to order a drink only, and even then he ordered a cup for the girl and retreated. That's the kind of grooms we have, said the girl with her hands when she told all this to Anya. I see, and you can't calm down. The girl brewed herself dosherak and was going to have dinner. You want never. Vlada waved her hands. She continued her experiments, going on dates again and again. And then, one day she was lucky. The young man came with a rose. It was already pleasing because no one had ever brought a single flower before. Vlada went out to him. Hi, are you Artem? She looked at him. Yes, are you Vlada? He held out the flower to her. Very nice to meet you. She took the flower. Nice to meet you too. He leaned in a little. Why don't we go to a cafe, have a coffee and talk? She asked her test question. Sure, he immediately agreed, didn't even object to anything. They headed in the direction of the cafe, and Vlada thought why such a handsome and lonely, maybe married. The young people reached the place they needed, took a table, and settled there. Would you like a coffee? Vlada looked at him. Of course, waiter, he called, without even looking at the menu. Thank you. Vlada lowered her eyes. You're welcome. Maybe some dessert? The guy asked. Oh, you're so generous. You've seen the prices here. The girl was afraid that he wouldn't have enough money later. Don't worry about it. Artem took her hand. Good. Then tiramisu, asked Vlada. And tiramisu, please, Artem muttered to the waiter. The order was quickly brought, and Vlada sat and sipped strong coffee. She didn't like this drink, but for such money, she couldn't refuse. The cake was very delicate, as if there was no cake at all. Everything was very pleasant. Vlada decided that Artem was exactly what she needed. Can I invite you somewhere? The boy asked. Of course, Vlada bloomed that she had managed to grab such a tidbit. Not in vain she waited so many years and checked men. Where you live, I'll pick you up at 7. He took out a notebook to write down the address. Vlada dictated the street and house. Should we order something for tonight? Do you have any preferences? Artem asked. Sure, I like seafood and semi-dry pink champagne. Vlada said something that cost a lot. Okay, it will be done. Artem put his hand to his head. Well, see you later then. She waved her hand at him. Okay, at 7 I'll be at your place. He also waved. The girl did not walk home, but flew on wings. Finally, everything she dreamed of would come true. She would become the wife of a rich man. He would provide her with everything, and Vlada would not need anything. This thought came to her when the girl was a little over 8 years old. Her mother and father lived in an old barrack when the girl was born. While she was small, then the grandmother lived with them, and the mother therefore held on. But when Vlada turned 5 years old, the grandmother was gone. The mother went off the brakes. She began to drink uncontrollably. The father at first tolerated it, then yelled. He also drank, but did it rarely and a little, and then he left altogether. Vlada went to school for 2 years wearing the same thing. It was possible not to put patches because the linen was so worn out that it was just falling apart into threads. She hated her life, her mother, and everything around her. She hated her life, her mother, and everything around her. When Vlada was 8 years old, her mother died, and from this, the girl was only happy. She was brought to an orphanage. There were clothes and food. There were clean sheets and no stink. Whatever they say about this institution, in it Vlada was better than in her own home. The girl almost did not make friends because she did not want to socialize with poverty. And so just then, she stood on the porch of the orphanage and thought that she would never live like that. She will have everything. She will prove that it is possible to get out of poverty and become rich and beautiful. And for the rest of her life, she dreamed about it. Anka, Vlada ran home. I'm going on a date tonight. Really, again on your own, with checks? I'm going on a real date. You have no idea. No, on the present, you can't imagine who I met today. It was obvious that the girl's eyes were shining. Who? Philip Kirkorov? Did not stop laughing, Anka. Better. Vlada was twisting something in her hair. Who could be better than Kirkorov? Her friend thought for a moment. I met a wonderful guy. His name is Artem. Vlada began to tell quickly what happened today. You found him after all, was surprised by her friend when the story was over. Yeah, Vlada nodded and smiled. It was a few hours before 7, and they had to get everything done. And where will you go? My friend didn't give up. I don't know. He asked me what to order. Vlada shouted from the bathroom. And what did you order? Anya came in there. Seafood and pink champagne, the girl said proudly. What a fool. Anna looked at her. Why? Did not understand her friend. You'll have to eat it. And you have never eaten seafood. She twisted her finger at her temple. Right, I didn't think about it, but we'll figure it out. Vlada finished with her hair. Well, good luck to you. Anya wished you happiness. Thank you. Vlada's hands were shaking a little. She was very worried. The girl went out to the entrance. Half an hour before the appointed time. She didn't want the guide to see where they lived. A car approached. Vlada did not expect that Artem could come on it, so she stood and waited further. Vlada, she heard. She looked around but saw no one. Only then she realized that Artem was calling her from the car. Hi, she waved at him. Get in, let's go. He showed her to the front seat. The girl quickly did as she was told, and they drove out of the yard. Hi. Artem looked at her. You are so beautiful. Thank you, it's my pleasure. The girl was embarrassed. Well then go ahead. Dinner will be extravaganza, he smiled. Yeah, let's go, she nodded her head. They drove for a long time. Vlada saw that they were already outside the city limits, but it didn't bother her. There was a cottage village, and they turned there. Well, wow, do you live here? Vlada asked. Yes, what's so amazing about it? He looked at her. No, it's just that I've never been here before, the girl admitted honestly. Well, there's a first time for everything, Artem said and turned off the car. He helped her out, led her up the steps to the house, and they entered. The first thing the girl heard was music. It seemed to be coming from everywhere. What is it? She asked, mesmerized. It's Tchaikovsky, Artem answered simply. He took Vlada's arm again, and they walked into the large living room. The table was set, so the young man immediately sat Vlada down at it. How beautiful everything is. The girl couldn't believe her eyes. Yes, we tried. Artem opened the champagne and poured it into the glass. When Vlada took a sip, gas bubbles got into her nose and began to tickle unpleasantly. Well, I propose to raise a glass to your future. Artem held the glass on weight. What do you mean to my future? Vlada didn't understand. And for whose? Artem misunderstood now. I thought for ours. She looked at him with big eyes. No, I do not meet with people like you. If only on the road one time. But Victor Vladimirovich is afraid of such things, so he asked me to bring you today. He pointed at the door. Victor Vladimirovich? Questioned the girl. Yes, this is my master, and I'm just his driver, laughed Artem. What a creep you are. Vlada tapped the young man on the shoulder. She got up from the table and wanted to run away, but the guard stopped her. He almost twisted her arms and sat her back at the table. What's going on here? Vlada couldn't do anything. Until you talk to Victor Vladimirovich, you won't go anywhere, Artem said in a different tone and left. At that moment, an old man in a wheelchair entered the hall. Hello, Vlada greeted him. And to you. The grandfather raised his hand. Why did they bring me here? Shouted Vlada. You see, child, I like you very much. I saw your picture on a dating site the other day, and I decided to meet you. I asked Artem to do it for me. If I'd been on a date, you'd have run right away. I noticed one thing on your profile. Don't bother the poor. And here it is, just what you wanted. I'm not poor. I have everything you need. The old man finished his tirade. But you are old. Vlada looked at him with all her eyes. I'm not as old as you think I am. I'm only 58 years old, and in a wheelchair, so it's easier to move around the house. He laughed. What am I supposed to do? The girl did not know how to behave and what to do. First, let's have dinner. You wanted seafood. On the table, everything you want. The freshest oysters, mussels, squid, shrimp, and other sea creatures. He circled the table. Yeah, okay, Vlada was scared, so she started eating. It was disgusting, but the girl swallowed it anyway. Then she was poured champagne again. She had already drunk it, and she didn't care about any bubbles. She needed to stop the trembling in her hands and all over her body. "Would you like something stronger?" the old man asked. "Can I?" The girl looked at him. "Anything you want." Viktor Vladimirovich snapped his fingers. At once the attendants came running, took away the plates, and brought cognac. "Can I eat something normal? Not this slime." She pointed at the plate with the octopus. "I was expecting that, of course," and he snapped his fingers again. A plate appeared in front of them, with a piece of meat, vegetables, and something else on it. She began to eat. The old man added brandy, and the girl drank and ate again. She was so afraid to stop because she didn't know what would follow. "Will you stop eating?" the old man asked her. "Yes." Vlada quickly put her fork away. "Let's go sit by the fireplace." He showed his hand in the direction of the hearth. "Okay," agreed on the girl. She wanted to get up, but she could hardly do it. She was a little drunk. "Oh, my dear, you need to go to bed, not to the fireplace." The old man laughed. Vlada was helped up the stairs. Someone undressed her and put her to bed. The girl could not resist, so she did nothing. In the morning, Vlada woke up feeling very thirsty. She got up, realized where she was, and was glad that she was alone there. "Ah, awake already." The old man looked in on her. He called someone, and a tray of food and a glass of juice was brought into the room. Vlada immediately took the juice and drank it all down. "Thank you." She put it back on the tray. "Aren't you going to eat?" the old man asked. "No, I don't feel like it." Vlada shook her head. "Then get dressed and let's go to the garden. I'll show you everything." He waved her hand. They went down the stairs and out into the courtyard. There was indeed a small garden. "Are you staying here? Is anyone going to lose you?" asked the old man a question. "Only a friend," answered Vlada. "Call her today. Tell her you liked it with Artem and you're staying with him. If she asks to visit, tell her you'll call her later. Don't worry about the apartment. I paid for it 2 years in advance." "Okay, I understand." Vlada was beginning to think she had a good job. The old man demanded almost nothing. He had given her money for the apartment, so he would give her more. They walked around the garden. Viktor said something about trees and bushes, but Vlada was not very interested. "It's lunchtime soon. We have to go back to the house," the old man said, and they headed for the entrance. "Do you never leave here at all?" Vlada dared to ask. "Are you stupid?" He looked at her. "I have a big business, and I'm the CEO. It's just that today is the weekend, so it happened that way." They entered the house. There were already a few items on the table. "Go get changed and get to the table," the old man commanded. "Okay." Vlada went up to the same room where she slept tonight. There she found something to change into and came downstairs. They sat at the table while they ate, silent. Suddenly the old man raised his head. "Today you sleep with me," he said affirmatively. "And tomorrow with whom?" Vlada joked. "Jokes, huh?" He squinted. After dinner, Vlada stole a bottle from the bar, and she realized that she could not lie down with the old man sober. All day long she was in a state of idleness. Then she was called to dinner. "Could I have some champagne?" Vlada asked. She needed it so that there would be an odor. Of course, the old man snapped, and everything was brought to him. Vlada drank a glass, then a second. Well, you don't get carried away." The old man stopped her. "All right," Vlada said in a drunken voice. After dinner, they sat on the veranda for a while, and then went to the old man's room. Vlada, while she was running to the toilet and then to her room, had time to get drunk. They went to bed. The old man smelled of perfume, and his breath was disgusting. Vlada almost vomited. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't make it work. He pushed the girl away and told her to get out of his place. When Vlada stepped out into the hallway, someone grabbed her and dragged her somewhere. She recognized the smell of Artem's perfume. She was pleased with this game. He dragged her to her room. And why did you have to do that if I was coming here anyway? Vlada glared at him. You bitch, you think you're going to be had by this old man, and I'm going to be on the sidelines. Well, no. He pounced on the girl and did whatever he wanted. I would have agreed to it willingly, she said afterward. Vlada realized that she was a prisoner in this house. A month passed, the old man paid generously, but there was nowhere to put the money. Vlada put it in a bag. She sometimes came to the old man's room, but the rest of the time she spent with Artem. She was forbidden to leave the house. A year had passed since she had last seen her friend. Then Vlada remembered how she had told her that it was good to live in a golden cage, and that now she was in this very golden cage, and there was nothing good. Vlada dreamed of only one thing, to go for a walk not in a tiny garden, but on the street. Once the girl felt sick, she realized that she was expecting a child. The old man could not do this, so the father is Artem. Vlada waited for a moment when they were left alone and decided to talk to him. I'm expecting a baby, she told Artem. What does that have to do with me? He didn't understand. What do you mean, what does it have to do with you? Vlada looked at him in surprise. You live with an old man, so charge him, said the young man. Well, you'll be sorry, she threatened with her finger. That evening, she told Victor at dinner that she was expecting a child. He laughed with all the teeth he had. I had mumps when I was a child, so I don't have any children and can't have any. He got up from the table. After that, the old man called all the men who worked in the house. Among them was Artem. Confess whose child she has? He looked at them. Why are you torturing them? Asked Vlada. I'll tell you whose baby it is. Answer me. He looked at the girl, and she in turn pointed at Artem. That same evening, they were both kicked out of the house. They didn't speak, each went his own way. Vlada came to the apartment where she had once lived with Anya, but other people were living there. She didn't know where to go. She decided to rent a room at first, but found only a dormitory. During the time spent in the old man's mansion, the girl got used to getting drunk on cognac every day, and now she was not without it. There was money, so the girl did not want to disadvantage herself in something. Then some neighbors supported her. In the morning, Vlada realized that she had drunk a lot during the night. In order not to be evicted from here, she decided to pay for a longer term. And then the drinking with the neighbors began again. When the girl's belly began to appear, the alcoholics became quiet. They didn't understand where it came from, because she was here all the time. Maybe you're sick with something, they asked her. Don't you understand? I'm going to give birth soon, Vlada yelled. Now she was not drinking a leak cognac, so she was quickly getting drunk. Why are you drinking then? Wondered the neighbors, Nakladniki. I forgot to ask you, Vlada nodded. She could stop for a few days, and then it would start again. When it was time to give birth, Vlada drank very little that day. Her stomach ached. By evening, she was taken to the hospital. The doctors didn't want to take her in at first, but then they took pity. Dominica was born. When Vlada was discharged, she could hardly stand on her feet, not because she had consumed something, but because she had lost her strength. She went to her dorm. She had to call a cab. While she was standing near the hospital, a girl came up to her. Vlada, hi, Anya shouted. Ah, hello. How are you here? It was hard to even speak. I'm coming from work. Let me help you. She picked up the child in her arms. Then a cab came, and Anya went with her friend. When they were already in the dormitory, they were already waiting there. Well, neighbor, will we wash our daughter? They were rubbing their hands together. Come on, let's get out of here. Anya waved her hands at them. You two, go home, Vlada looked at her. No, I'm not going anywhere until I know everything. Anya stomped her foot. Okay, but I need to get some sleep. She snuggled down on the couch and immediately passed out. She didn't sleep long because her daughter woke up. She was hungry. Vlada got up, fed Dominica, then looked at her friend. How are you doing? She was also sitting with red eyes. I'm fine, she pointed to the room. That's how I wanted to become rich. Will you tell me about it? Anya looked at her, and Vlada told her everything, how she had been living lately, what she had been doing. Well, you're a good friend. I'm no better. Anya looked at her. When you disappeared, and then you said you were staying with Artem, and that you'd paid the rent for 2 years, I was shocked. I called the landlady, told her we changed our minds, and she gave me all the money back. It was enough to add to buying a room in a communal apartment, and then the money was gone again. I thought about what to do, and a friend called me to work in a nightclub. I'm still there. If you want, I'll get you a job too. Anya didn't look at her friend. Yes, Anka, we have a good life, Vlada nodded. She wanted to drink, but she couldn't admit it. So, will you come to work with me? Again suggested her friend. And here where? She nodded at her sleeping daughter. Well, not right now. Let her at least start walking, agreed Anya. Now they began to meet more often. Vlada was still drinking, but not as often as before. There were no more drinking buddies around. More and more often the girl was alone. When Anya came, they could sit for a long time, crying and complaining about their lives. Time passed, and Dominica was already running around. While her mother was at home unable to follow the child, she was taken to her neighbors. That was the only reason the girl was fed. Sometimes Vlada looked at Dominica and saw herself as a child. She also wore some rags from the children of the neighbors, unwashed and not combed. Vlada agreed with Anya and went to work at the club. The money ran out. She couldn't go to the club sober, so she got drunk at home. I danced there on autopilot, and I never knew how I got home. In the morning, she saw her daughter sleeping next to her, which calmed her down. Vlada realized that she was going to the bottom at a great speed, but she couldn't do anything about it. In the evening, it was necessary to go to work, but there was nothing to drink, and she decided that she would do it right there. She left Dominique with the neighbors, as usual, and dressed up and went to the club herself. The first thing she did there was to go to the bar and ask for a drink, but the waiter demanded payment. Damasic, come on, give it to the paycheck, the girl begged. First earn money, and then maybe I'll pour, he said with a stony face. I'll buy the girl a drink, came a voice nearby. Oh, thank you, you're so kind. Vlada tried to make a decent appearance. You're welcome. He tossed the bills on the bar. It's for a whole bottle. Dmitri raised the money. Give me a whole bottle, Vlada commanded. Give the girl what she asks for. The guy looked at the bartender. Okay, he put 2 shots and a bottle on the table. I'm Vlada. She looked at the young man. And I'm Taras. He smiled. Will you have one? The girl poured 2 shots. I won't refuse, to an acquaintance. The guy raised a shot. Between the first and the second, Vlada started and immediately poured again. No, I'll pass for now. Taras refused. All right, then I'm alone. Vlada tipped the shot again. Do you work here? The young man asked her. Yes, she nodded and took the bottle again, and poured herself a drink. Is it possible to drink so much before work? He didn't understand how a girl could drink so much strong alcohol. But he had seen her before, and he liked her. Taras felt sorry for her. He understood that from a good life do not go to work in such places. Well, are you with me or not? As if Vlada missed his question. Come on, he raised his stack again. Then the girl was summoned. She felt good about it, so she went. Teresic, you save the bottle. I'll be back soon, she said to the guy. Okay, I'll wait for you here, he nodded. While Vlada danced on the stage, the guy looked at her without taking his eyes off her. He liked her body, and she was nice. After the dance was over, Vlada came down to Taras. Pour, now I'll have another dance, and then I'll go home, she commanded. Now, the guy quickly poured, they drank, and Vlada went back to the stage. She danced some more and then disappeared backstage. Not 5 minutes later, she was sitting at the bar again, Taras beside her. The girl again asked for a pour and drank. Well, that's it, show cacao, I'm going home. She sent an air kiss to the bartender. Wait, I'll walk you home, Taras shouted after her. I don't need a chaperone, she blurted out, but the boy persistently held her hand. When they got home, Vlada took Dominica. She couldn't do anything else, just collapsed on the couch and fell asleep. She didn't care what happened to the baby. She was so drunk that her brain refused to work. In the morning, Vlada woke up and was horrified at what that scoundrel had done to her girl. On the couch was a tub filled with water. There were some ducklings floating there, and there were still remnants of foam. Dominica sat at the table. She was clean, calmed, and in a new dress, and in her hands she held a doll. "What are you doing all this for?" Vlada raised her hands, but couldn't formulate a sentence. "While you were asleep, the baby got hungry. I ran to the store, bought some porridge, boiled it, she ate, and immediately fell asleep. Then I decided I wouldn't leave you like that. Went to the store again and bought groceries, a dress, and a toy for the girl. I also asked the neighbors for a bathtub, and at the same store I got all of these." He pointed to the baby's hygiene products. "Thank you very much, but we don't need anything." She stood up. "Yeah, I can see that," he nodded. "Go away," she pointed to the door. "No, Vlada, I like you and I want to stay with you," he said in all seriousness. "Or maybe I don't want to." She was almost crying. After all, it was obvious that this was a good man. How could he look at someone like her? "Let me, please," he begged. "Okay, but you still have to leave now." She didn't look at him. "I'll come tonight. Don't go anywhere tonight." He walked over and lifted her chin. "Okay, I'll be waiting." She looked into his eyes. And indeed, Vlada didn't go anywhere tonight. She didn't even want to drink as much as she used to. She found some decent dresses in the closet and put them on. I put fruit and some roll on the table. Tara's had bought it all, sat down, and waited. Time passed, and Tara's was still gone. Well, it's his right. He saw my true face, thought Vlada, and wanted to go to the store. But then there was a knock on the door, and Tara's came in. Sorry, there was a long line at the store. He handed her the flowers. Dominica was asleep at that time, but the young man didn't forget about her either. He brought her a toy. I thought I had cheated. Vlada did not look at him again. They sat down at the table. Tara's took a bottle of wine out of the bag. "If you want to stay with me, from now on a glass of wine is your maximum, okay?" He popped the cork. Okay, to be honest, Vlada didn't feel thirsty at all. They raised their glasses. "To us," Tara said. "You're so fast," Vlada laughed. They sat up late into the night, and then Tara's asked to stay with her. He went to sleep on the floor, on one blanket. In the morning, an angry Anya came running in. She didn't notice Tara's and started shaking her friend. "Why didn't you come to work?" the girl shouted. "Leave me alone. I don't work there anymore," Vlada said in her sleep. "Girl, why are you barging in without knocking?" Tara's woke up. "And who is this?" Anna didn't understand. "This is Tara's," introduced the guy to Vlad. "What are you, a prostitute?" Anja shouted again. "Get out of here and don't come back." Vlada took offense at her. Anya ran out of the room, calling out names as she went. "Who is it?" Tara's rubbed his eyes. "This is my ex-girlfriend." She looked at him with different eyes. "I have to go to work," the guy realized. "Will you come tonight?" Vlada asked. "Yes, will you cook dinner?" He left some bills on the table, kissed her on the cheek, and left. The neighbors didn't recognize the girl. She was dashing down the hall with some pots and pans. "Vlada, I can't believe she's given up drinking," said Grandma Luba, who always stayed with Dominica. "Oh, leave me alone. I'm in love," Vlada almost sang. Now she realized that no riches in life could replace the feeling she was experiencing now. She waited for Tara's, and he came. Month after month passed. Tara stayed with Vlada every night. He slept on the floor, although the girl offered him to lie down next to him. After 6 months of their meetings, Vlada had completely forgotten what drinking was. She was practicing with Dominica. The girl finally went to kindergarten. Taras had his first kiss. It happened by accident. She was setting the table and he reached for his phone, which was lying on the edge. They first bumped foreheads, then the guy wanted to pity her, and she thought the same, and they bumped again. After that, there was nothing left to do but kiss each other. I was afraid you would say no to me, he looked at her. What are you saying? You pulled me out of such a hole. She even lowered her eyes because she was ashamed. And you me, he mouthed. I don't understand. Vlada stared at him. I came to this club because I found out that my wife was cheating on me with my best friend. I couldn't bear it, so I ran away to avoid doing anything stupid. On the way, I saw this club and went in. I saw you right away, came over, and gave you a drink. And then you started dancing, and I couldn't take my eyes off you. So I thought I'd help you with everything. I stayed one night, then another. I didn't have anything planned for you. I just needed to take my mind off the divorce proceedings. And then I looked at you differently. You're good, I loved you. But all this time I was distanced from you. I thought that you already perceived me as a friend, Tara said almost in one breath. Wow, I didn't know, she wanted to frown, but she didn't succeed. After that, they both laughed. Tara's pulled Vlada against him, and they started kissing. It's over now, and we can move in with me, he whispered. I'm fine here, Vlada said. I insist. He pulled her tighter against him. Okay, let's just pick up Dominica from the daycare center, the girl said. Why did you give such a strange name to the girl? Tara's wanted to know for a long time. When I was a little girl, I dreamed of going on a wedding trip to the Dominican Republic. I didn't have to, at least I named my daughter so that she reminded me of it. Vlada admitted honestly. Everything is still ahead of you, Tara's winked at her. They left the dormitory, headed in the direction of the kindergarten. The girl, as she felt, she was waiting for them. Mom, Dad, hurrah, you came for me, the girl rejoiced. I guess we will move to live in a new place, Vlada sat down and told her. Hooray to a new place, the girl clapped her hands. Well, shall we go right now? Tara's asked. What about the things? Vlada didn't understand. We'll think about them later, he hugged her. The car stopped near a large house. Everything trembled inside Vlada. She remembered how she had once been brought to a house like that. What are you doing? Tara's took her hand. No, I'm fine. I hope you're not working as a driver for anyone. She looked him in the eyes. No, I have drivers working for me. He pointed at the man behind the wheel. They got out of the car and went into the yard. 2 spaniels were running, and Dominica immediately ran up to them. What nice dogs, she stroked them. Now you are the mistress here. Tara's pointed to the house. I hope that you will not refuse to become my wife. When he got down on one knee and took out a box, Vlada's legs went under. It turns out that there is no need to wait and look for anyone. If there is happiness, it will find you. You just have to wait a little. And maybe the fact that Vlada has gone through so many trials, she was given such a prize. No one can say that now. Of course I agree, she hugged him. I love you. He lifted her in his arms and carried her into the house. Tell me how having such a house, you slept on the floor in my dorm. Vlada couldn't understand. That's how I slept, he laughed. The wedding was quiet, attended only by a few of Tara's closest people, and after that, the family flew on a private plane on a wedding trip to the Dominican Republic.